This morning was my time to be able to go swimming at the local pool because I had set up a reservation between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. What I'd like to do is leave the house fairly earlier than that so that I can get there and I can get dressed. And if my particular lane is, which I've reserved, is not being used, say a quarter to 8, then I can get into the pool early and swim early and get home early and not linger around the pool longer than I have to be. But so I got up as usual, had my cup of coffee, and started to pack up. And then I remembered that my bag, my swim bag, was in the other car and not this particular car. And that was a slight inconvenience, but no big deal because I was still running on time. So I bring my bag in, I get packed up, I put my coat on, and I go out to get into my wife's car. And I'm just right on time. But as I get close to her car, I notice there's this huge pile of snow on top of her windshield. So I'm thinking, oh, great. Now I'm starting to grumble here, and I'm thinking, this is an inconvenience. This is not something I planned on. So I went inside to look for the windshield wiper shovel, I'll call it. Couldn't find it. Grab her keys, go out to the car again, look in the back seat, and there it is. And as I'm shoveling the windshield, wiping the windshield with this little shovel, I notice now it's become ice. So this is not going to be a 30-second thing. This is probably going to be a 3 or 4 or 5 minute thing, maybe longer, because I'm having to walk in snow around it and I'm clearing it off. And so I'm starting to get annoyed. My timing has been upset. My goals have been upset. And I'm starting to get annoyed. And as I'm walking around the car and shoveling off the snow, which I did not know was on the car, I'm getting angry. I'm getting annoyed, murmuring and complaining. And one of the things I've noticed about me in those situations is almost right away, I start to look mentally, I start to look for somebody to blame. But I heard myself doing that and I stopped that. And so I'm getting annoyed and angry and I'm complaining and murmuring and running late, which I did not want to do. And so eventually, but I came to understand that I saw myself and heard myself for about 5, 6, or 7 minutes, murmuring, complaining, getting angry, and getting annoyed, and of course, looking for somebody to blame. So let me pause there and ask you a question that occurred to me this morning as well. And the question is this. So why was I reacting that way? What's the cause of my reacting with annoyance and with anger? Perhaps, I don't think this morning with profanity. I've certainly a good amount of complaining and arguing and murmuring. But what, when I'm in that situation, what's the cause of that? Where does that come from? And I want to ask you that the same because I'm sure there are situations, perhaps every day, where you find yourself in an inconvenient situation, something that you didn't plan, something now is taking you off of your schedule, and you find yourself thinking, or inside of, or maybe even outside, murmuring, complaining, arguing, looking for someone to blame, getting angry, and perhaps even going so far as to being profane. Why do you do that? Why do I do that? And why do people do that? Other people. Well, let me give you two answers to that. The first answer that I would get normally from people who I would ask that question is they would say, "Well, it's pretty obvious. Um, the situation is what's causing you to be angry, annoyed, and complain, and so forth and so on. The snow on the car, the lack of the shovel, the bag, all that that's why you're acting and murmuring and complaining like that is because of the situation, the situation that was going on. That would make a lot of sense. And if I were to ask 10 people the same question, I would probably get the same answer out of 9 of them. And that is, they would say, well, you know, Your situation was the cause and the blame for why you were angry, annoyed, upset, and irritable. But that's the wrong answer. If you're a Christian, we look at these things through the lens of the scriptures. And what I've described there is what the Bible would call fruit: anger, annoyance, complaining, murmuring, profanity, perhaps, evil thoughts galore, real evil things going on up here while I'm going through that 5 or 10 minute scraping of the car. But the Bible would describe that as fruit that comes from a root. And the Bible would also is helpful in telling us that the root is really the heart of the person, the soul of the person, the spirit of the person, the heart of the person. If the heart is bad, then what's going to be coming out of me is going to be bad things like anger, annoyance, impatience, profanity, grumbling, complaining. Those are fruits that originate and come from a bad heart. However, the Bible tells me if I have a good heart, even in that kind of a situation where I'm running now late, what will come out of me will be good things: gentleness, patience, love, thankfulness, kindness, those sorts of things. So, why did I behave badly for those 5 or 10 minutes? Because I had a bad heart. And what that means is, it means a couple of things. Number one is, for that 5 or 10 minutes, I had drifted away from God, and I was putting my faith and trust and reliance really in myself. That's what was really going on. Or, in other words, I had drawn myself away from God at some point in the morning, and now this situation arises. I have a bad heart, and what's coming out of me is bad things because it's originating really in a heart that had abandoned God and was really trusting and relying and depending upon myself. That's why you behave that way too. Your circumstances do not cause you to sin the way that I was sinning this morning, in ways that you sin when you're in a similar situation, an inconvenient situation, as I found myself this morning. Well, based upon the previous videos that I've posted on inconvenience, what I began to realize after about 5 or 10 minutes, I realized that I was in an inconvenient situation. The Holy Spirit began to talk to me: Jeff, inconvenient situation. When He did that, I knew what was happening. I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, and I was in agreement with Him, this is an inconvenient situation. And what I began to do at that point was I began to draw near now, to turn around and come back to the Lord and talk to Him and pray to Him and draw near to Him in my heart and asking Him for forgiveness. And when I did that, instantaneously, God drew near to me, and I began to stop complaining, stop arguing, stop murmuring, and stopping the evil thoughts that accompany that. And I calmed down, and I trusted the Lord to get me to the pool on time. And, I was now trusting the Lord, relying on Him and not relying on myself. And having drawn near to Him and Him having drawn near to me, I began to calm down. You'll notice that's very similar to the other videos that I've posted on inconveniences. Another inconvenience this morning. Heard the Holy Spirit say to me in about 5 minutes into it, 6 minutes, Jeff, you're in an inconvenient situation. And having been reminded of that, number one. Number two, now I drew near to the Lord. I turned my heart. I stopped trusting myself. I went back and trusted and relied upon Him. And then within seconds, the Lord drew near to me again and helped me to calm down. That all happened in about, once I noticed it was an inconvenient situation and what God's plan for me was in that situation, I noticed the inconvenience within 1 or 2 seconds. The next 2 or 3 seconds, I began to draw near to the Lord in my heart. And the Lord did as He promises to do for us in those situations. He drew near to me, and when He drew near to me, my anger, my annoyance, my impatience, my frustration, my stress, and all those other kinds of things just kind of dissipated. And when I got back into the car on my way to the pool, I was very thankful that that didn't last long. I caught it with the help of the Holy Spirit. God drew near to me, which was wonderful, kind of him to do. And in drawing near to me, the anger and annoyance went down, and calm and peace and joy went up. Another inconvenient situation. Today, I'm still in the day, and I'm undoubtedly going to run across another one or two situations that are going to be inconvenient. But the Spirit's been very good to teach me. Number one, very quickly, within a second or two, Jeff, you're in an inconvenient situation. Draw near to me. Recognizing that I need to do that, I draw near to him in prayer, and when I do that, he draws near to me, and he helps me this bad fruit to settle down, being replaced with more calm and more peace and more joy. Well, this is the third video titled Inconveniences. Had this happen this morning, thought I would share this with you and along the same lines, teach you what I was learning, and that is my circumstances don't cause this bad fruit. The cause of this bad fruit is coming from a bad heart. And when I recognized that and drew near to the Lord, he drew near to me and changed me and helped me in the situation. And I suspect he's going to have to I'm going to have to learn this again a couple more times today before I put my head on a pillow. But a good situation, a good reminder, and I hope it's a helpful reminder for you as well.